So when I first taught you guys how to find the slope and y-intercept from a table, we did the first method where you take your y2 minus your y1 and divide it by x2 minus x1. Okay, and then you would get your slope and plug your slope back in, multiply it by the x, and see how much you had to add or subtract to get to the y value. This way, I've showed you guys very briefly before we left, it's going to be a lot easier to find your slope and your y-intercept. Okay, so just like on a graph, you need 2 points. Okay, so I have 1 point here, 1 point here. So I'm going to use 222 and 432. Okay, so the first step that you need to do is you need to turn on your calculator, of course. Okay, and then you're going to hit stat. You want edit. Edit is number 1, so you can hit number 1. Okay, right now everything is clear. But if you want to go back and clear everything out, remember, you have to make sure that the L1 or L2 is highlighted. So you use your arrow button to go up, and then you hit the clear button, down arrow, and that'll clear everything out. So I'll show you. I'll put a 5 and then a 6. Okay, I'm going to go up, highlight the L, hit clear, down. Boom, everything's cleared. Okay, that's just a little reminder how to clear everything out. So my first X's are 2 and 4. Your X's are going to go in L1. So I'm going to put 2, hit enter, and then 4, hit enter. You have to hit enter because if you don't, you'll have the number 24, not 2 and then 4. And then my Y's are 22 and 32. So I'm going to use my arrow key. Okay, I'm going to use the right arrow to get to L2. And then I'm going to put 22, enter, 32, enter. Okay, so now I have 2 values. Oops, sorry, y'all. There we go. Let me go back to stat and then edit. Okay, so now I have my 2 values. Okay, my 2 points that represent points on the line. You have to remember that these values in the table actually represent points on the line. So I'd walk to the number 22 and then go, or walk to number 2, excuse me, then go up to 22. I'd walk to 4, then go up to 32. And I'm going up because these are positive. All right. So the next step, okay, is I'm going to hit stat again. This time I'm going to hit the right arrow key and go to calculate. C-A-L-C means calculate. We want to find linear regression, okay? So we want to hit the number 4, okay? You guys should see a screen that looks like this. You're going to hit enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, okay? So you're going to hit enter until you see a screen that looks like this, okay? Your slope should always be the number in front of the variable or the letter. So notice how it has A equals 5, B equals 12. Well, the A is in front of the X, so that means A is my slope. So my slope is 5. The B represents your y-intercept. So your y-intercept is 12. So if I were to write this as an equation, it would look like y equals 5x. And that 12 is a positive 12. There has to be a symbol in between. I can't just put 12. So I'm going to put positive 12. Okay, so 5x plus 12. This is my slope. Slope equals 5. Y-intercept equals 12. Okay. I know the writing is horrible. Please excuse it. Okay, we're going to do number 2 as well. Okay, so I'm going to go back and hit stat. I want edit, number 1, stat edit. I need to clear everything out. So So I go up to L1, make sure it's highlighted, hit clear, and then the down arrow. And I'm gonna clear out L2, make sure it's highlighted, clear, down arrow. Now I'm ready to put in my next points. Remember, L1 is where your X's go, L2 is where your Y's go. So my X's are 1 and 2, and my Y's are 8 and 15. So I'm gonna put 1, enter, 2, enter. Now I'm gonna go over to L2, and I'm gonna put 8, enter, 15, enter. Okay, so I have my 2 points from my graph. Okay, so the next step is I'm gonna hit stat again. I go over to calculate. I want number 4. I'm gonna hit enter 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and you should have a screen that looks like this. Remember, the A is gonna represent your slope. So my slope is +7, and my y-intercept is a +1. Okay, so if I were to write this equation, it would be y equals 7x. Remember, there has to be a symbol to separate them. So it was a +1, so I'll put +1. And there is my equation. Here is my slope. And here is my y-intercept. Okay, and remember, the y-intercept is where on a graph it would touch. So it would touch the y-axis at +1. Okay. Now, let's look at seeing if a graph has a positive or a negative slope. Okay. So we're going to go back to the first graph we looked at. Okay. I showed you guys Slope Man. Okay. Slope Man used to hang out a lot in our classroom. So you need to make sure that you're using Slope Man. If my graph is starting, is starting on the right side and rising, this looks like Slope Man's eyebrow right here. Look, it's starting on the right and rising to the left. My slope is going to be negative. If my graph is starting, it's starting on the right, yes, and rising to the left. If it's starting on the left and rising to the right, it's going to be a positive slope like his eyebrow here. So you want to make sure that you're looking at Slope Man's eyebrows to see if we have a positive or a negative slope.